Hi everyone, this video is for lesson 1.3. Our learning target in this video is I can keep verbs consistent in form and tense in a sentence. So let's have out your Cornell notes and we're going to get started. Our question over here in the left column today for lesson 1.3, what are verb forms and tenses? And how do I keep them consistent in a sentence? Once you've added that, we're going to go over here to the right column to notes and start with what verb forms are. So by verb form, we mean, kind of like it sounds, what form the verb is in. So even if we have the same root verb like laugh, look at all the different forms that laugh can take in the English language in a sentence. So for example, we have something called the infinitive, which is to laugh. Simple present, laughs or laugh, depending on your subject. Simple past, laughed. These last two are participles, past and present. You're typically going to see with helping verbs. So like, he has laughed or she is laughing, those kinds of things. On tests like the ACT or even quizzes in this class, you're not ever going to be asked like, list the infinitive form. However, it is important for you to at least generally know these names because we will refer to them as they have different functions for verbs or these verb words in the sentence. So again, you're not ever going to be like quizzed on that, but it is helpful to kind of differentiate those 5 main forms. So the first example I showed, to laugh, is a pretty standard example in English. Same thing with something like to start. However, we do have some verbs that take more irregular forms. For example, to be in the simple present becomes am, is, or are. Was or were in the simple past. Past participle been, present participle being. So those would be, or that would be maybe a good one to jot down just because we do see that one a lot. Another irregular one is to have, and again, that one we see a lot. Also something like to drive. Notice it ends up a little bit different in some of these other forms. The important thing though is that when you have these words in a sentence, we want to keep them consistent. So that's what we're going to next, is keeping verb forms consistent. Verb forms we want to be in what's called parallel structure, meaning they're the same throughout a sentence. So for example, this is not a good example. If I say I enjoy running, swimming, and to bike, notice I have running, swimming, so I've got that ing ending, and then all of a sudden I've switched to an infinitive, to bike. That's not parallel, right? There's something off there. So instead, we would want to say something like, I enjoy running, swimming, and biking, and keeping all of those ing forms. Another example, again, we're going to start with something that would need to be fixed. To err is human, forgiving divine. Notice I've started off in that infinitive form, so that means this second one needs to also be in the infinitive form. To err is human, to forgive divine. So just keeping those consistent. You also may see something where a subject is added, and we want to make sure that, especially in a list, that is the same structure throughout. So for example, if I say, every Sunday morning, Lucy cooks, she cleans, and jogs. Notice I already have that subject Lucy and then a verb cooks. So, and my last verb is also just jogs. So in the middle here, we don't need to add she because that makes this list not parallel. Instead, we would just list normally with the verbs in that same form. Every Sunday morning, Lucy cooks, cleans, and jogs. Similarly, Ethan plans to read, cook, and he will study this evening. So because we've started off with just those verbs in like a normal list, we need to keep them that way and not add this he will. So Ethan plans to read, cook, and study, right? This he will is unnecessary and it's throwing off the parallelism of that list. Okay, so you're going to see a few practice examples of verb forms coming on the screen. All right, we have a few more notes to take on verb tense and how we keep those consistent. So when we're talking about verb form, we talked about these different ways a verb can function and look. Tense, we're just talking about time. And primarily on things like the ACT, you're going to see present versus past. Okay, so if the sentence starts in present tense, she laughs, it should end in present tense unless there's a clear shift in time. So for example, if I say I went to school and ask for help, there's my verbs went and ask. Notice there's a shift in time, or notice the sentence starts in past tense, I went to school, but ask is in present tense. There's not a clear shift in time, and so we want to keep those actually consistent. So the sentence should read, I went to school and asked for help. Those should both be in past tense. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we mean tenses should be consistent. Another kind of basic example, if I say Suzanne likes frozen yogurt and believes it was delicious, that feels off, right? Because these first two verbs are in present tense, she likes and she believes, but this one is in past, was. So instead we'd want to change that. Suzanne likes frozen yogurt and believes it is delicious, to keep all of those in present tense. Now, there are times where it is appropriate to change verb tenses in a sentence if there is a clear shift in time. So let's look at this example. It says, Olivia drove to school before she realized it was a snow day. So notice all of our verbs here are in past tense, but there's kind of a sequencing issue, right? Because she drove to school before she realized it was a snow day. This event actually came before this one. And so this is an instance where we actually have to use that past participle, or that I kind of think of it like super past tense. So we have to say Olivia had driven to school before she realized it was a snow day, to show that this event happened before this one. And we're showing again that shift in time. That is okay if there's a clear sequencing and a shift in time. Okay, so you should see some examples of verb tense problems coming up on the screen. All right, our final steps. Sorry, I clicked too fast. Add to your notes, especially those examples that you may have missed. Let me know what questions you have at the end of the video, and determine what kind of practice you're going to do for this learning target.